Good evening from Washington. I'm Larry O'Connor, and we're concerned over here about the leader of the free world. We're concerned about the head of the executive branch of the United States federal government. We're deeply concerned about our commander-in-chief. Yes, we're concerned about the president of the United States. There's a lot to be concerned about, and we saw it play out yesterday in his Rose Garden appearance with the Prime Minister of South Korea. We're going to get to that in a moment, but let's just give you the progression of the week at hand. Earlier this week, he announced the re-election campaign for his presidency, and he did it with a video, not with an appearance, not with a speech, not with remarks, not with a press conference, God forbid, not with a rally, with a video, a prepackaged, edited video where even then his speech was slurred during the voiceover. You can barely make out exactly what he was saying. And the contents of that video, as we remarked at the time, was dark and foreboding and really didn't talk about the 4 years of accomplishment he's got behind him and the 4 more years that he hopes to achieve. No, it was vote for me to keep the MAGA fascist Republicans out of office because they'll ruin the country. It was fear. It was dark. It was mourning in America, but mourning like you're mourning somebody's death. That's not normal. And that brings us to the press conference where he was asked specifically about concerns over his age. We remind you, when he was running for Senate back 5 decades ago, he won that election by raising concerns about the age of his opponent, who was 63 at the time. Mr. Biden, of course, is 80. So when asked about his age and what kind of effect it might have on his presidency, on his campaign, and whether it is in fact a factor for voters, he said this.
With regard to age, I can't even say, I guess how old I am, I can't even say the number. It doesn't register with me. And but the only thing I can say is that one of the things that people are going to find out, they're going to see a race, and they're going to judge whether or not I have it or don't have it. I respect them taking a hard look at it. I take a hard look at it as well. I took a hard look at it before I decided to run. And I feel good. I feel excited about the prospects. And I think we're on the verge of really turning the corner in a way we haven't in a long time.
One itty-bitty little cognitive test. That's all we're asking. Age, I don't even think about the number. I can't even count that high. And could we just, if you guys, gentlemen, could you just run that without the sound for a moment? Because I want people to notice something about this video. Let's take a quick look at it if we could. Do you see where the sun is in that picture? It's above and behind him, right? That's where the sun is glancing off of his head. His face is in shadow, right? So why is he wearing sunglasses? And don't tell me, oh, well, that's his trademark. He looks so cool. He's meeting with a foreign dignitary from an Asian country, the Prime Minister of South Korea. That is rude. Trust me, in the Asian culture, it is incredibly rude to meet somebody formally and keep sunglasses on to cover your eyes. So why was he doing that? He was doing that because he doesn't want you to see his eyes. It wasn't to keep the sun out of his eyes. The sun wasn't in his eyes. It was to keep you from seeing the shallow, vacuous look that he often has in his eyes, the undilated pupils that are constantly part of his trademark stare these days. It was probably also to mask the fact that he was reading a lot of his remarks yesterday as he was taking questions from the reporters. Oh, wait a minute, how could he be reading something when reporters were asking him questions? He had to speak off the cuff, right? Right? No. That's the other incredibly alarming thing that happened yesterday during the press conference. He was asked a question, the very first question, by a reporter from the Los Angeles Times, and a very good photographer with a very powerful zoom-in lens caught the fact that he was holding a card that not only had the name of the reporter and a picture of the reporter, but it actually had the contents of the question the reporter was to ask. Here, take a look. It's all right there. Foreign policy. semiconductor manufacturing? How are you squaring your top priorities like semiconductors? That's beyond a cheat sheet. That's a script. This is alarming that the President of the United States, the leader of the free world, our commander-in-chief, can't actually take 2 questions. That's all he took yesterday, was 2 questions at this press conference without actually having the question scripted in front of him. And by the way, the question was pretty much exactly the contents of that card. Here, our friends over at Town Hall put the question and the video of that question along with the picture of the cheat sheet. Take a look.
The first question is from Courtney of the Los Angeles Times.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your top economic priority has been to build up U.S. domestic manufacturing in competition with China. But your rules against expanding chip manufacturing in China is hurting South Korean companies that rely heavily on Beijing. Are you damaging a key ally in the competition?
There we go. So no, of course it wasn't word for word. I'll give this actress playing the part of a reporter a little credit for doing a little ad-lib and improv, but she stuck with the main themes. She said chip instead of semiconductor, but it was all about manufacturing and foreign policy and specific to the semiconductor issue in Asia and China and how it affects South Korea. That was her question, and it was scripted for her. Now, either she told the White House press office in advance what question she would ask so the president would be prepared and not look like a fool. Well, that mission wasn't accomplished. Or, even more troublesome, the White House wrote out the question for the reporter and said, hey, you want to get called on at this thing? Ask this. Either way, this is a scandal. It's a scandal for the White House, it's a scandal for Joe Biden in particular, and it's a scandal for the reporters. It's a scandal for journalism that they would even play along with this charade, this farce, this play that we're seeing unfold every day in the White House. At what point do the American people stand up and say enough is enough? At what point do members of the Democratic Party say we can't continue this? The Democratic National Committee announced this week that there would be no debates during the primary season. 0. Joe Biden is to be handed the nomination by acclamation. The vote is just a Potemkin village. It's another farce. It's another play. And the Democrat voters are expected to play their part, just like that reporter did from the Los Angeles Times. Here's the problem, though. He has 2 announced candidates running against him. Marianne Williamson, who, looks in crystal balls and reads your chakra for you, she's polling at 9% right now. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just announced last week, and he's already hitting 19%. Clearly, voters in the Democratic Party want a choice. They want an option beyond Joe Biden. And yet the Democratic National Committee is protecting this man and not allowing any debates of these candidates. This is totalitarian, it's un-American, and it's a farce. There's more to come on O'Connor tonight. Are you alarmed yet? Are you as concerned as we are? You should be. There's more to come. Keep it here. It's the Salem News Channel.